Prime Minister Stephen Harper and his wife Lorraine, and the Governor General and his wife, will head to London, England this Sunday for a 4-day party to celebrate the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. Elizabeth ascended to the throne 60 years ago, 1952, and just in time for the Jubilee, the Royal Archives are releasing for the first time ever the Royal Household Staff List. These stretch back to 1660. It has staff records for 50,000 people who served the royal household in jobs that included keeper of the lions in the tower, groom of the removing wardrobe, and chocolate maker to the Queen. And joining me now via Skype to talk more about this is Robert Buchholz. He's a professor of history at Loyola University in Chicago. He's in London, England tonight. And Professor, really neat project. Tell us a bit about it and what's in these records.
What's in them is the records, the official records of the royal household, specifically admissions registers. So the royal household, the British court, was in an age when kings ruled the earth, the court was the center of the world. So it wasn't just a political center like, the Whitehall House or number 10 Downing Street. It was a cultural center and a social center. So in these records, you'll find the staff of the royal household, which includes the great and the good, dukes and earls and countesses, and major cultural figures like Sir Hans Sloane, who was a physician of George I and left the founding bequest for the British Museum, or the composer Henry Purcell. But above all, you'll find ordinary people who serve the court as coachmen and grooms and laundresses and turnspits. And of course, a lot of those people are our ancestors. This is kind of amazing that the royal household is opening this stuff up. During my period, during the 17th and 18th centuries, you weren't allowed to look at these things, and in fact, it was considered an insult to the dignity of the monarchy. And in 1689, Parliament wants to look at the household establishments. The very documents are going up now. And a clerk of the Green Cloth replied that, no, we won't let that happen because that would be making these documents publique, P-U-B-L-I-Q-U-E.
Right, of course.
Now, the Queen is making them publique.
Why is that? Is this part of the royal family's efforts to improve its public image?
I think that's the main reason. A constitutional monarchy has to have a relationship with the people. An absolute monarchy doesn't really have to. And in 1689, they were still coming out of absolute monarchy. They had just begun to establish its constitutionality. And I think it is part of that progression of being open and sharing more of the royal life, and also maybe a realization that people have probably a lot more in common with people who work in the royal household. These are jobs. Some of these jobs are still with us. There's a rat killer, and when I was a grad student, people would make fun of me because I worked on the rat killer. But the rat killer is an exterminator. Everyone needs to have an exterminator. The mole taker, who removes royal moles, is actually a primitive dermatologist. So there's lots of people who can find an interest in these jobs. People who like horses would be very interested in the department of the stables and the breeding that went on among the horses and stable keepers of court. People who like cooking, people who are interested in the culinary arts, would be interested in the career of Patrick Lamb, who was cook to Charles II, master cook in ordinary, to Charles II, James II, William and Mary and Anne, and wrote a famous early cookbook, Royal Cookery, which is kind of a landmark in the history of cooking. So there's a lot of things that people would find interesting, and yet at the same time that they could relate to.
Now, as we mentioned, there's 50,000 staff records here, and they're all online at findmypast.co.uk, and that gives anyone in Canada or elsewhere who might be interested in tracing their family history a chance to go through these records and see if in fact they are related to, well, for example, the chocolate maker to the Queen.
Oh, absolutely. First, it's the primary means of searching on the website is a name search. And, there's all sorts of people. I also run a database about the royal household, and I frequently get emails from people who, there's a family rumor that somebody was a lady in waiting to Queen Anne, or that somebody worked in the stables under George III, and they'd like me to help them out. What can I tell them? These records go deeper than anything that I've had access to before, and so they have the possibility to really not only pin this down, but how much their ancestor may have been paid. I even found somebody. I'm obviously, you can tell from my accent, I'm American. I'm of Mexican and German descent. But there is a George Buchholz livery pony boy who dies at the beginning of the 19th century. I suspect that the livery pony may not have appreciated his ministrations, but I don't know that this guy's a relative, but just to find someone with my surname at court, probably because of the heavy German influence at the Hanoverian court, that kind of makes sense, was remarkable for me as someone who works on this. So remember, because of the British diaspora, there's all sorts of people in Canada, in the United States, in Australia, New Zealand, all around the world, who may very well have had relatives who served at the British court.
Well, it's a fascinating project, and Professor Robert Buchholz, thank you so very much for joining us.
It's been my pleasure.